Welcome to the Ave Podcast. My name is Kyle C, and I'm joined by a special guest right now. He's a 6'7" poet from Philly. Hope I got the height right.
You got it.
That is the owner of one of the funniest and entertaining animated series on the internet, which is based upon the unpacking of his life. He's an American Black Film Festival Award winner, the self-proclaimed ratchet whispering, elite hug giving, and most importantly, the owner and creator of Trashterpiece Theatre and host of the Trash Adjacent Podcast. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Perry. I want to make sure I'm pronouncing this correctly. DiVirgilio?
DiVirgilio, yeah, close enough. You got it, yeah.
Better known as Vision the Poet. How you doing today, sir?
I'm happy to be here. Everything is good, man. All things are good right now.
No, man, thank you. I got to make sure I get your name right, man. Your name is your name, like Marlo,
Yeah,
right?
I appreciate that. Trust me, I mean, I've had it for a long time, and I've heard people, you were close. You were right there. You know, You just add a little extra season into it. You was right there, though.
Yeah, man, it's missing the paprika. It's missing the paprika.
That's all. That's it. You good, though. It's good. It's good.
But, bro, man, I'm interviewing you at the perfect time right now because your city's on fire. The Eagles about to go to the Super Bowl. Yeah. You got a black quarterback leading y'all.
Yeah.
Did you guys just win the World Series?
No, we were in the World Series, but also Questlove just won an Oscar.
Mm-hmm.
Quinta racked up with the Emmys this year with Abbott Elementary.
That's right. She's from Philly. That's right.
Yeah, she's from West Philly. Despite what happened with the crazy stuff that happened during, but Will Smith won for best. It's a shame that thing overshadowed it. But really he also won his first best actor.
Yeah.
So it's Philly is a good time right now to be from Philly, and it goes in ebbs and flows like that. Being from Philly, like we have our time and it kind of fades, and then we come back and when it fades. So it's we up right now.
Yeah, you're definitely up right now. And the Sixers, they balling a little bit too. Embiid, Harden,
Embiid is Embiid. Like, listen, I know y'all keep giving this damn MVP to Jokic, but let me show you who I am.
Listen, man, I love Joker, but. Yeah. Man, I've been rooting for Embiid the last 2 years, personally, myself.
They're doing good, man. I think they were like 25 and 4 over the last, close 30, something like that.
Yeah. And he killed Joker last time, too. Just now.
Yeah.
So another city was like...
It's a good time right now. I can't even lie. It's a good time.
It's definitely up. You're about to have a parade, man. Black QB, too. I love this, man. From Vic to Cunningham, man. This would be great for the city to see a black quarterback do it. It'd be lovely.
Facts. And they still are, whether it's Vic, Randall, or Donovan.
Sure.
They all still are very, they're Eagles at heart. They all still kind of cheer for the Eagles. And, and all three are like those three, they're solidified in Philly.
Oh, for sure.
Solidified. Like they ain't never got to buy a drink or a meal in this city again. Like they've given us so many great memories.
I know. And how I forget Donovan McNabb, man. That was my guy too back in the day, man. As I said, the city's up, man. It's great. y'all beat my Niners, unfortunately, man. It hurt my heart. It hurt my heart real bad. But
the thing is, like the Niners is one of those teams that I'm a Notre Dame fan. So Joe Montana was my guy back in the day. So I used to root for the 49ers back in the day. So I always say I want to see the 49ers win, except the times they play my Eagles. Other than that, I cheer for the Niners. I like
what? That's how I felt about this game too when they played. I was like, I like the Eagles. I said I can't hate. I said I really like the Eagles. It's just not on Sunday, but
that's how it is. That's healthy. I'm like that with the Lions too because of Barry Sanders back in the day. I still want to see the Lions win because I still love Barry Sanders.
I know. People forget how disgusting that guy was.
He was outrageous.
Yeah. Just disgusting. But, I just want to get into this real quick. You know how life works. We always see the finished product of things and we get entertained by the content. But everything is always, it has a starting point. So for you, where did this all begin? Like, what was this something that you always wanted to do, or did the idea just drop in your lap one day and everything just sparked from there?
It was so organic. Like my friends will tell you, almost all the stories on Trashterpiece I've told on road trips or on the corner or something like my friends know the stories they hear are nothing new. But I was to be honest, if I'm being frank, I was really depressed. I was in the house. I had just was going through a recovering from a really bad breakup, and I didn't ever want to leave the house. I was on that type time.
Okay.
and I started telling us the story about how I mentioned I had a stalker. And I think she still might be my stalker. That's what I said in the story. And people was like, yo, you got like you can't just like I typed this out on my Instagram story. And people was like, you can't just say that. You got to tell the story. So I sat there and I told this story like slide by slide on my Instagram story. And people were like, leaving comments and laughing. And I was like, the sad part is that wasn't my only stalker. And he's like, well, you got to tell that story too. So I'm like, all right, I'll do that next week. So the next week I told that story. The following week I told the Wendy William story. And week after week after week on my Instagram slides, like on my Instagram story, just like 50, 60 slides of just text. And people would tune in every Saturday at noon, and it went on for 50 weeks in a row.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and like while I was, maybe 30 or so episodes, then I hit up a friend of mine who was a poet, but is also a TV producer. Okay. And I was like, I think I'm onto something. And he was like, well, let's do it. And then COVID crept in. And so that, we were going to try to do a live action, but it didn't work because COVID crept in. I'm like, well, I'm going to teach myself how to animate. So I got a bunch of free trials because I was broke as hell at the time. I just took free trial after free trial of different animation suites and taught myself how to animate. And a friend gave me a microphone because I was like doing my first audios into like my Beats headphone microphone, and it was just trash. So it's like people donated microphones and stuff, and I just like over time just developed the stories into like animation to like bring them to life.
That's crazy. So how did, in this case, like how did Philly shape you? How did the city? I know we're talking about the city of Philly. How did it shape you? Like for people who didn't grow up in Philadelphia, like what's the characteristics that make Philly Philly? In
I always say there are three non-living characters in Trashterpiece. One of them is Philly. The other is the era, like the late 90s, early 2000s. That in itself is a character. And then I say the music of the time is another character. Philly is really like super blue collar, gritty, hyper aggressive. It's almost like we always feel like we have something to prove because we kind of are in New York's shadow. Like New York is 90 miles, is 2 hours north. DC is 2.5 hours south. So a lot of times people want to forget it. So we make sure that people aren't going to forget us. So Philly is very aggressive, but it's also very nurturing. Yeah. If they love you in Philly, they love you. You ain't never got to worry about nothing if they love you here. So being from Philly and being from North Philly on top of that, it made me fearless in a lot of ways. It allows me to take chances. I know no matter what, like as long as I'm authentic, then I'll be fine. That's a big thing. People in Philly, as long as you're authentic, they don't give a shit what you do. They don't care how great you are, as long as you're authentic. You're your authentic self. So I try to keep true with that with Trashterpiece, be as authentic in my stories as possible.
Yeah, no doubt. And like, and for you, like, how do they help to shape the stories? Because I know you're saying like this is like a character. Like
so I think at the time, like you gotta remember, like at the time, like Philly was like we talked about, how Philly goes up and down, and that point, it was a flex to say you was from Philly.
It was up.
We talking like Beanie Siegel and State Property, PD Crack, Freeway, Eve, like Philly's Most Wanted, like you name it, like it was. It was, and then on the R&B side is Jill Scott, Music Soul Child, Floetry was living in Philly at the time.
Like Bell Harris Roots, and them guys and stuff.
Yes. Like it was a flex to be from Philly at that time. And we were kind of like, our bravado was of that. So it was just to be out and about, to be coming of age during that time. It was being out and about amongst that is why I probably was out as much doing the ratchet things I was doing, because it was such a flex to be from Philly during that time.
We even had Toronto's own. We even had Glenn Lewis. I think he spent some time in Philly too. Put out I think like a classic album, to be honest. That album was fire.
He slid through an event I threw, like on the Humbug, just was in the crowd. I'm like I used to throw an event with a couple of friends called The Harvest. It was an open mic live event. He was just in the crowd. Shit, I'm like, I ain't blow up the spot. He nodded back. He just nodded like, yeah, he's a cool dude. And again, that album was amazing with that kind of influence of that neo soul sound.
Yeah, amazing. And when I met him a few times here, same thing. You're just in the cut, just chilling, very humble,
chilling. Real cool dude, man.
Real cool dude. But he got a little piece of that Philly soul, I like to call it too.
Absolutely, That's another thing that kind of like being from Philly, we know that we stand on some really strong shoulders and we have to uphold that. Almost everybody from Philly does some kind of art. If you talk to them, if they're not a rapper or a singer, they do visual art, they play an instrument. Everybody, it's just who we are as a people. It's such an artistic city. So we have to like uphold that too. Like, so that the quality of your art, we understand that there's a pressure because it has to come correct if it has the Philly name. And that goes back to, whether it's, the neo soul era back into like the sound of Philadelphia, Gamble and Huff with, the Delphonic stylistics, the OJs, like we understand that's the level that we have to uphold in Philly when you put your art out there.
Well, that's tough. You bring it up, Gamble and Huff. I mean, that's a level upon a level. Teddy Pendergrass, too.
Yes, Woo! Teddy, exactly. We understand that. Like, we know who came before us, and we know, whether it's again Phyllis Hyman, Hall and Oates. Like, we know these names. We have to uphold that standard.
And then on the sports side, from Dr. J to Iverson to Barkley to Mike Schmidt, all you guys like
Reggie White. Like, it's
White,
like it's a city that there's big names and you don't have to like live up to them, but you got to at least be your authentic self trying to achieve that.
Right. Yeah, there's levels to it. You make sure there's a status that you definitely want to keep.
Absolutely.
Which is why, I mean, we're from Toronto, but this is what's kind of been happening here the last like 10, 15 years, especially with Drake popping up and now all these artists are coming up all over the place and the sports scene's growing. And like right now, just on the sports side, like we got more players from Toronto than New York City, which is like back in the day, that was unheard of when I was playing, completely unheard of.
Y'all was brewing for a while. I remember it was this cat I'm almost positive he was from Toronto back in the day. I remember back in like the DJ Clue days, Chaclair.
Oh, yeah.
Yo, my man's was nice, yo. Like, and again, he held his own on those DJ Clue, those Green Lantern mixtapes back in the day. Like, his music held its own. So y'all was brewing for a while, and that push through is crazy for Toronto.
Yeah. Him, Socrates, Cardinal Official. They definitely had their time. And for me, like coming through the States sometimes, or I'll go to DC and I'd hear like Socrates on the radio, I'm like, oh shit. Like, yo, we're like, okay, they appreciate this here.
Exactly. If it's dope, like dope is dope. It's that simple. Dope is dope.
Now, if there was any like protagonists or people who maybe were first skeptical of your series, was there one particular sketch where those, people went the other way or they were loving it, or was it just all love from the beginning?
I've gotten pushback from Wendy William fans. Like,
really?
That's always interesting. Yeah, like apparently Wendy Williams got some stands out there, and I've gotten like, some pushback. Like, for those who've never seen Trashterpiece, like Wendy Williams is a character, like the Wendy Williams. She has her own episode, like where she basically, she played the shit out of me when I was like 20 years old.
Oh, we're gonna touch on that later. But go on.
She played me. And so she makes an appearance in every single episode somehow, like just in the background somewhere. So I've gotten pushback from her fans. I've gotten pushback about some of the themes. But when people realize like I don't, these are true stories, but I don't use real names. I'm not trying to play nobody. Once they realize that, it's like, oh, you're not like exposing somebody. Like, nah, I'm just telling a crazy story. And even in I'm telling you the consequences that I face within this. I'm not glorifying anything. Once they realize it's not a real person, it's not the real name, and I kind of mess with the image a little bit within the animation, so people can't figure out who it is, then they're chilling.
But was there like an episode where you saw, like, I know you said before, like when you were doing the Instagram stories, you were seeing that, okay, this is how it was happening. But was there like, when you started doing the animation now, was there like a point where you're like, oh, okay, like this is really something I got to keep going with?
Yeah. So like you said, people see a finished product and people see like views now. Like if you go, like, I think, a lot of them are in the hundreds of thousands, most of them are definitely 20,000, 30,000, 40,000 views. My first 23 episodes, none of them went over 1,200 views. The 24th episode is the one that went viral.
Really?
And it was an episode about this white girl who's trying to do like some race role play in the bedroom that I just wasn't with, like just dropping M-bombs.
I think I remember that.
Yeah, I'm like, yo, who you? Like, that's the one that pushed through. That's the one where like some celebrities like was hitting me up behind the scenes, like, yo, you on to something, keep going. But it was like kind of a testament of perseverance though. Like, if I would have quit at 22, Like, hey, nobody really watching this. If I'd, at 23, the 24th episode went viral, and then the rest went viral after that. So that was the one. And then a bunch of people on TV in the industry hit me up, was like, yo, keep going, keep going.
Oh, that's dope. You know what? It reminds me of that picture of the person like hacking, like with the pickaxe, and they're hacking for the
with the
diamond.
goal,
And
yeah.
then, and you were like this close. Imagine if you turned around.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Like, that's exactly how it went down. Exactly how it went down.
And was there a point in time where you're like, am I wasting my time? Like, I might just, or did you feel in your spirit like, okay, nah, I know this is hard, but there's something at the end of this tunnel?
So this is where it's good to have mentors. Because there was definitely times like people don't understand how, like, with animation, like a 6-minute skit, a 6-minute episode could take me 6 days. Like, we're talking, we're 8 hour days of just nothing but sitting at the laptop. And after a while I was like, this is like a lot of freaking work, man. Like, and nobody's seeing it. But again, one of my mentors was like, yo, it's not about like, yo, just keep pushing through. It's not that your work is trash. It's just the way the algorithm is set up right now. It's not you. It's Instagram. It's not you. You're building on YouTube. It's not like, just keep pushing through. And when you learn how social media works, it does kind of go, sometimes they're pushing video more, sometimes they're pushing different content. It's not on you.
Yeah. So
it really came a point where it's like my mentors kept pushing me, like, nah, just keep going. In those moments that I did have doubt. But that's why it's good to have them, because I can lean on them. I could just, I can lean and vent to people who've come before me. So that was the blessing in it. But it was definitely times I was like, I don't know about this, man. It's a whole lot of work, and ain't nobody seeing this shit.
And especially too when you're like a one-man team at the time,
yeah, that's
right?
It. Like, I do it all. Yeah. The writing, the voiceovers, the animation, the screen, the storyboarding. Like, it's just me and a laptop and a Shure microphone at this point. That's it.
And what's funny, sometimes you hear like an artist talking about like they did a bunch of songs or they did an album, or mostly it's a song, but they did a song where you think it's okay, then all of a sudden that's the one that blows up and takes over the world. So that 24th episode, was that kind of like that for you? Or
yeah, I wasn't expecting that to blow.
Yeah.
Like, I had episodes I was like, all right, this the one, and then I didn't. But at this point I was just like, all right, I'm just putting out content, and at some point something's gonna catch on. I had no idea that, I woke up the next day and it's like, whoa, this is at 80,000. I had never had anything like that, like close to that. Like, whoa, this is at 100. Like, it just, the number, like, I had zero idea, but the topic like really engaged people. Yeah. So I'm like, all right, let me fix some stuff. I fixed it, and I tinkered with the thumbnail a little bit. I was working around like the title screen, like not the title screen, but like the caption and all that, like just kind of tinkering with things. And that was the formula that I needed to get to for it to help break through.
Now, and I know you do a great job in terms of protecting like the identities of the characters, but do you get some backlash in terms of people who are being portrayed in your series? Like, what's the worst story you can share where somebody just went off about like, because they didn't like how they were portrayed, even though you're not using the names?
So one of my friends, so just two off the top. One of them was a recurring. She's in like 3 episodes. She's an ex-girlfriend of mine. I don't use her real name, but her thing was I didn't get to her until into the maybe like 27 episode. And hers just happened to be one of the ones that went viral after the racial play shit.
Yeah.
And she basically was like, I was waiting for my turn. Like, you didn't really, I'm glad you did this, but that's not how I remember it. And you made me out to be a monster. I'm like, nobody thinks you're a monster. You just was young and dumb. Like, she felt really guilty. And like, we had by that point, we had been friends. And I mentioned that in the episode, like, we're friends right now. We're cool. But she was like, she didn't know she wouldn't be my friend anymore. I'm just like, you get over it. I got over you. You'll get over this. And the other one was a friend of mine who he has like a little mini series, and he just says the most ratchet shit ever. In one of the episodes, he's like, we were like, if you hit the lottery, what you gonna do? It was like Powerball is like $900 million. And he's like, what you gonna do with your money? And we all talking about, he's like, yeah, I'm gonna just buy all these bricks and flood the block with coke. And we like, you don't have to do that. He can't turn off the hood. And so I put 3 episodes out about true things that he said. He just was like so mad about like, why you trying to make me out to be crazy? And I ain't no thug like that. And our other friends at the check, I'm like, yo, but you said that. So we stopped talking for a while.
Oh
But
wow.
then he kind of just not long, but then he kind of got over. He was like, "Yo, that shit was funny though. I ain't even gonna lie, that shit was funny." He was in his feelings for a
His
minute, but now
feelings.
we cool. Yeah.
Yeah, that's hilarious. I what I was gonna say is and I know like again, I know you don't give up the names, but like anybody in your crew, like when you do this series, what's been the feedback from your guys?
Specifically Bruce. Like Bruce is in a lot of episodes. Like Bruce is my best friend,
Yeah.
and he was my best friend growing up. And he's just if this is Tombstone, I'm Wyatt Earp, he's Doc Holliday. He's just that dude.
Mhm.
They like that. I'm painting our neighborhood. Like Philly has a lot of people. We don't. The closest we like Rasheed Wallace is like from where we're
Yeah.
from. Went to like the neighborhood high school, but they're really happy that that I'm putting the block out there, that I'm telling our stories, and they remember these are true stories. Like they remember these too, so they're just happy somebody is telling the story. And even when I kind of go back to hang on the corner a little bit, I go down there just to say what's up. They like, yo, nah, you get out of here. Like we living vicariously through you right now. Like go write, go animate, get the hell off the corner. Like we passed this. So they're very supportive, but they've always been that way. Because again, I always say I'm thug adjacent. My friends was the thugs. I was thug adjacent. I was just with them dudes. And they've always respected that. They never tried to make me do anything, be anything more than just a student athlete and then an artist. So it's been really good feedback from them.
No, that's awesome too, because and I never looked at it that way where you're kind of documenting your past, right?
Yeah.
It's almost like it's like the I don't want to call it hood hieroglyphics, but like
yeah, but it's close, yeah.
Yeah, but basically, right? Like you're basically scripting what happened to your life. And I mean, for somebody to look back and be like, yo, I remember that day. It's gotta be it's gotta be kind of honoring, for themselves to watch themselves be played back in some of these characters too, right?
Especially during a time where we didn't have we had cell phones, but it wasn't these smartphones. It wasn't, we weren't taking videos, and there's no video documentation unless somebody had like the little the shoulder mounted joint, or then like the little hand, but nobody in the hood had that joint. Yeah. So we get to paint it artistically, since we come from the era right before that became prevalent.
Yeah, just still pictures. That's the best we got. It's very grainy.
In the little club pics with the little graffiti or the little airbrush backdrop. Like we got that document in the time, but like not the videos. And so I think they also just love like you said, the music is a big part of, like, this was the music that we listened to. Yeah. These were this is what got us lit, whether the drinks, the cars we drove. Even I'm very meticulous about making sure that our block looks like the block that I'm animating.
Right.
I'm like how like a club look. That's how the club looked. That means a lot to me, that somebody hit me up and be like, yo, that looks exactly like that. That means a lot to me. So yeah, like you said, it's kind of like hood hieroglyphics. I like that.
Yeah, no, like, and that's, I mean, it's honoring them. Like I said, I think it's honoring your peoples and stuff. I mean,
yeah, for sure.
I think that's really cool. And if you could take it somewhere where that ends up being like, like really popular and really famous down the line, although it's already building towards that, then I mean, that's what we're here for, right?
That's what we're here for. 100%.
Yeah. So I know you're mentioning like exes and stuff. What about your ex? Like in terms of the one that did the 3-part series?
Yeah, we cool. We cool. Like she was a savage. Like she just was a savage, no Philly John. And like one of the episodes is how she's in like 4 or 5 episodes, come to think of it. One of like her the first one that went viral, like we broke up because she cheated on me, and the dude she dealt with next ended up getting her pregnant, and he had a baby. And this dude wanted to fight me. And I'm like, bro, what are you doing? Like this just on some nut shit. And putting that out, she didn't like that I put that out there, but I'm like, it happened.
Yeah.
Like if you say I'm lying about something, maybe I'll go back, but that's nothing I said is a lie.
Right.
So I think she's very fortunate that I don't say her name, and I kind of made her character look different because she was she's a great woman now. She, she's a good mom, all that good. We good friends. We do good. We do business, but she was just trash back then. So she kind of hates that it's out there.
And this is the one, just to be clear, this is the one that ended up cutting her hair and changing her whole.
Oh no, that's the lightning bug chick. I haven't
lightning
even talked
bug.
To her.
That's okay. That's right.
No, I haven't talked to her. That was. So I put that story out there for me. That's a 3-part special. Yeah.
And not to cut you, I was watching that shit like it was Falcon Crest or Dallas or Knots Landing.
That's what it
Trust me,
felt
man.
like.
I was like watching that shit with like popcorn.
Yeah, like that was the first, that was like my first little attempt at not trying to be a comedy, an animated comedy.
Yeah.
That was like a 3-part dramatic series. And it was, and I did it like that just to kind of show that, again, I'm a big dude, I'm a massive human being, but we kind of go through domestic stuff too. We go through abuse. We, you know, whether it's physical or verbal, emotional, we go through this too. So I wanted to put that out there to say, hey, men also kind of go through this. And if my big behind can go through it, then, you know, other men are going through this too. But I haven't talked to her. Thankfully, I haven't seen her. I haven't seen her since maybe 2011. Thankfully, like God is good. God is good.
Got to move that negative energy away.
Yeah. Yeah, man, she was wild. Like, that was like the only, like, that was an abusive relationship. Like, it was really brutal. The good part is, like, she's Muslim now, and she's garbed up. Like, she wears the, you know, the khimar in the veil. So I might have seen her and don't even know. As I said, God is good. I might have seen her around Philly. I had no idea it was her.
She's calm. She's calm now.
Yeah.
But I think this is what I was talking about offline before, where it's like, you know, and I haven't really been in that situations. Can't say, you know what I mean? But like, I would say like the whole thing of just like this being relatable, because that's, like I said, that's what first got me. Like a shout out to my friend Norris, but he was the one that first sent me your series, and I remember I just started going down a rabbit hole because I think there was the first one we saw was the one where I think they were just you went to some, I don't know if it was some weekend, I don't know if it was something in Virginia, but it was something.
Black College Week, BET Black College Weekend.
Yes, BET Black College Weekend, and I remember we were me and my boys were rolling because we used to go to DC heavy like during that early 2000s. We had some friends that was living there, and so all that kind of just made us remind us of like those moments. And I'm like, oh my god, like this guy's. I know, you know, you're living in Philly. We're in Canada. We're in Toronto. You know, some of us from Montreal. But I was like, oh man, we did this. Like this story is us.
The Parasuco jeans, the slouch socks, and these DC girls were very noticeable. Like I used to love me some DMV women, yo. So I feel you.
Who didn't?
Man, they were just everything. DMV women, that was a weakness.
Who didn't? One of my favorite sayings that you have is, you know, thug adjacent, you just mentioned.
Yeah.
I need you to explain for the people that may not know that term, who's watching, what exactly that means.
Yeah, so the thing that gets mistaken in the hood is that if you're from the hood, you're like a hood dude, and it's like not. It's like some regular civilian cats that just navigate through the hood. Again, I was a student athlete, but my dad was in a gang back in the day, and I grew up with all his friends, and we like 30 deep on Lippincott Street.
Yeah.
So a lot of them sold drugs, a lot of them did way more nefarious things than selling drugs, but I grew up with them, so I would still be with them. Like I was in college or I was in high school playing basketball, but I would always come back to the block to be with these dudes I grew up with, who were just some real thug dudes. I wasn't a thug. And I was next to them dudes,
and you're the big dude, like you know, with them. So they probably thinking, oh, you know, he's clicked up for doing this shit with them too, but.
But that's the thing. But the thing is, like in the hood, like if you back in the day, if you played ball, you got a pass. Like nah, him. Yeah. He got a future. Or if you was like, there was a kid named Corey in our neighborhood who went to like the best school in the state. Like no, leave Corey alone. Like he not about that. Like he just walked past the corner, nobody messed with him. And like so, while he wasn't a corner kid, I was still a corner kid. I was still out on the block. I was still doing dumb shit, but I just wasn't a thug. I didn't live the life that they lived. So I would never even try to say that I was like some tough guy or I was like a shooter. I wasn't. That's not who I was. And when that stuff was about to get popping, they'd be like, yo, peace, slide off. Like, this ain't for you. So I will always honor that and not try to pretend I was anything more than I was. Because if nothing else, Philly will call you like, bro, come on, man. That's not what you was doing. You was out there, but you wasn't busting no guns. So I will gladly say I wasn't selling nothing. I wasn't shooting nothing, but I used to be with those guys all the time. So I always say thug adjacent, or I know some people say like hood adjacent. So I was thug adjacent. Like I was next to the thugs.
and we relate in the sense where like the student athlete did, because and that's the thing I love about that era too, is just because there's rules to it, man. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like there was definitely rules to it. Like, you know, like meaning like, you know, guys would leave you alone if they know you had a future and whatever it was.
Yeah.
You know, especially for sports.
Yeah.
Like, you know, basketball, like I remember even being here, it's like, you know, I'm from Montreal originally, but moving to Toronto, you know, you get to know some guys and stuff, and sometimes you get to parties and when shit's about to pop off, yo, see.
Slide. Go
home.
for you.
Go home. You're like, all right, you knew what it was. Say less. I'm out of here.
You guys say no more.
I'm out of here. But they always respect it. Even as we get older, it's like there's still that love because it's all about respect, right? It's all about respect. You respect what they do. You know, you're not to get in their way, and they respect your future and what you got to do. So they just, you know what I mean? So there's always that love there. You know what I mean?
I tell people all the time, I just like one of my friends now, like he's back home now, but he's now did like 12, 14 years in the feds. But before he went away, I was like lying about doing poetry. Like I would go down. It was this dope spot in Philly where like Jill Scott and Black Thought and all like Black Ice and all them got started called October Gallery. And on Fridays, I would go there. I would leave a corner and I would lie to my friends like, yeah, I'm about to go see this girl right quick. I'll be back, y'all. But I was lying. I was going to this poetry spot. I didn't want them to know I was doing poetry. So I did this for like months. And this one day I'm like, I'll be back, y'all. I'll be back in a little. I'm gonna go see this girl real quick. My friend Nell was like, yo, P, we know you do poetry on Fridays. It's cool, man. Like we don't like you're good at it. Go do your thing. We'll come support you. I was lying for no ass reason when like just thinking that I had to pretend like I was this player. Not that I wasn't at the time, but like I couldn't say I'm good. I had to use, you know, being hypermasculine, hypersexualized with women to hide the fact that I was doing something that I love when I never had to do that in the first place. So I always tell this story about like they were so supportive off rip of me being an artist. Like, we don't care, we love you. Go do your thing. We'll see when you get back.
That's cool. Now, you know, especially being Thug adjacent, how'd you even fall into poetry? What made you go? What made you go that lane? Especially, you know, being from the quote unquote the North.
Yeah, from North. So my mom always had me like write. I was reading and writing at a very early age, and so shout out to my mom for that. Like she always like, you know, she introduced me to a lot of poetry, and she kept me like, you know, if somebody had to do one book, if we had to do one book report for class, she'd make me do 3. Like she just had me writing all the time. And so I would write little poems and stuff like that in elementary and a little bit in high school. But when I got to college, and I wish this was a better story, but it's just not. I was a history minor and I had a medieval history class that I hated. The professor was just trash. And what we noticed is if you pretended like you writing notes, he would never call on you. So I would just keep my head low and write poems in class so that he would never call on me. And next thing I know, by the end of the semester, I got 60 damn poems in this book. And, you know, I started showing it to people and I started doing shows on campus. And when I get back to Philly, again, this is the Black Lily time. This is Jill Scott. This Badu is in town. You know, like the Solar Crayons are in town. So it's the height of the neo soul. So it's open mics everywhere. So I'm like, I got embraced by that culture of like, hey, listen, you could see like a rock band, a Black rock band on stage. And right after that is Music Soul Child or the Jazzy Fat Nancy's. Right after that, it's a hip hop cipher. Right after that is Poets. So during this era in Philly, if you were dope, that's all that mattered. They didn't care what kind of art you did. And I was a youngin' when they were doing their thing, but I was really embraced by the OGs and the old heads at that time. And as soon as I seen, then when I saw the movie Slam with I heard Saul Williams speak, I was like, this is what I want to do with my life.
Wow.
As soon as I heard Saul Williams, I'm like, this is exactly what I want to do with my life. That was it.
That was a motivation for you.
That was it at that point. Like, I'm like, wait a minute, we allowed to do this? Oh, I'm doing this. Like, that was it. I knew I wanted to be an artist at that point. I didn't know I would pivot into screenwriting, but it's all writing at the end of the day.
So for you, when you're doing your poetry shows, is there like added notoriety now that you got, you know, from Trashterpiece Theatre? Like, is it, or is it like two separate worlds?
It's weird, because like a lot of I was doing poetry in Philly since 2000, and you know, so I'm 22 years in the game, 23 years in the game with poetry, but I've been animating since 2019. And so like people will come to like a show and not know I'm a poet. They just see I posted that I'm going to be somewhere and they'll just show up just to support me. I didn't know you did poetry. I'm like, my name is Vision Poet, but they only know me from animation. And then I get people from, you know, I get hit up all the time from poets like, yo, I was listening to this thing and I heard this voice. I recognized your voice. I didn't know you did animation now. So it's like, it really is kind of two different worlds that are trying to like collide right now. And it's been weird, but it's been very supportive. They're like, oh, you also do this thing. That's kind of cool too. So like that it's really weird. Like people expecting me to go. I don't go on stage and tell fuckboy poems. If they're expecting that, that's not gonna happen. And my poetry doesn't always bleed into my animation. So it is kind of two different worlds.
Okay. But people do recognize it now, where it's like,
Yeah,
especially at
yeah.
this point now, where they're like, okay, oh, that's Vision Forward. Okay, all
Yeah,
right.
yeah. And I'm gonna start doing like I'm gonna start doing screenings and stuff like that, like live animation screenings as well as go back on the road on poetry. So we'll figure out a way to make both keep making both worlds collide.
Yeah. And how much pressure do you put on yourself just to get these shorts done? Like what's the process for you, if you can explain, just to take us behind the curtain just a little bit?
Yeah, so I have a list of stories that I want to tell. Like, I have a long list, and they always come up really an organic conversation. I'll be talking to Bruce, or I talk to my friend Danica or something. It would just be, I'm like, yeah, that happened to me back in the day. And you gotta tell, like, you didn't tell that story. So like, just having regular conversation among, how this is amongst your friends, and something comes up from back in the day. So like, that's where the inspiration for the episodes come. But then when it gets technical, like, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I might be like storyboarding and writing. Then I'm, putting everything together takes another 2, 3, 4 days sometimes. So it's literally all week for like a 7-minute short. So it's, again, because it may take me an hour to do something that's 1 second, but it's a transition. So it has to be right.
Yeah.
It has to be right. And then I'm such a stickler, if you look, like, most of my animations have different outfits. You don't really see that in television. It's like, Beavis and Butthead. I love me some Beavis and Butthead, but they've been wearing the same outfit since 93. Homer Simpson, same thing. Like mine, like I'm such a stickler of trying to like make sure that the clothes match the era. And then it's not chronological. So one year might be, the year was Nellyville. The next year is the year was things fall apart. Yeah. So it's just trying to figure out and be authentic to the clothes and the music and all that. Like that takes, for 7 minutes, it'll take me 6 or 7 days.
Oh yeah, or the year was College Dropout. That type of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, like it's all. I never really say like the year was like a number. Yeah. Because how I remember years and the music, that's how I remember. Like, I know what I was doing when Aquemini dropped. Yeah. I know exactly where I was when Reasonable Doubt dropped or Good Kid, Mad City dropped. So like that, for me, music is such an indicator of era and time that I always use music.
It's the book. It's the bookmark for our lives, man. Like
100%.
Yeah, 100%. Like when you, especially for hip hop, and I know hip hop's having its 50th anniversary this year. But when you go through, like, you think of the greatest moments of I remember where I was. Same thing where my dog's ad dropped, or or what we do, what we do dropped, and you're like, oh my god, this song sounds insane, or Beanie Siegel, and when they dropped oh my gosh, what's the remix, man? They oh my gosh, I'm trying to remember the song.
Rock the Mic.
There was a Rock the Mic. There was I think it was a Freeway one. I'm trying to remember the name of the song. I can't remember it right now. But yeah, but I know their era was with The Rock was huge, man. So like,
oh my god, in Philly it was like I
can't imagine.
It was crazy because again, before that, in Philly, the Roots have always been a staple, and the Roots are so respected in Philly. But prior to that, it was like Steady B and Cool C who had like national recognition, kind of
street stuff,
like street, like it was, the Youngsters. It was like Dry, so that was like such a big thing when it was like at the same time as Eve, Beanie, Oskino, Sparks, Young Guns, PD Crack, Freeway. Like at the same time, it was, it was so huge to be from Philly. Like we could just hear our people on the radio all the time. Like that was so great.
Yeah, but it really is a bookmark for your life, though. We all, knew we were when College Dropout dropped.
Yeah.
Well, even Things Fall Apart too. Things Fall Apart, like, made like even the guys who were really into hard shit, like, oh, this shit is fire.
Yeah. And that was the beauty of it. Like I was looking at this thing the other day. It was like all in like the stuff that fell all in one year. And it was like Aquemini dropped the same year as Hard Knock Life, as DMX, like over and over. And like, you could grab 3 CDs. Like the CDs used to drop on a Tuesday. Tuesday, you go to the record, you go to the little Tower Records or whatever, and your homie buy DMX, you might buy Jay, the other person buy, Outkast.
Then you burn each other's shit. Yeah.
The whole, now we got it. You know what I mean? Because we all gonna be in the same car anyway. So now we all got it. And it was the same thing with music. I mean, with R&B, like Joe could drop the same day as Carl Thomas, could drop the same day as Donnell Jones. So it was a golden era. And I think about this joke from The Office. Andy Bernard's like, I wish people would tell us when we're in the good old when we're in the good old days so we could appreciate them. And I look back and I'm like, I think we really took it for granted how blessed we were artistically. That music was just so good for so long and so
really
abundant.
Was, man. It really was. And everybody remembers their era as the best era. But you know, I think for myself, I got lucky because I saw Jill Scott. She came to Toronto and did a free concert with Mos Def.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, she did a free concert with Mos Def. And it was literally about a month before her first album came out.
Yeah.
Words and Sounds. And I remember being like, watching on stage, I remember being like, wow, like this girl's gonna. I'm glad to see like she's getting her shine, because that the whole thing with the song with the Roots and Erykah Badu took her spot, and so you're like, wow, this girl's about to do her thing, and then that album just went to outer space, especially with the poetry and all that stuff. So for you being from Philly, I know this question is off the cuff now, but like Music Soul Child, Jill Scott, especially Jill Scott, being that she's a poet and all that stuff as well. Like, how much did that influence you? What was your impact when Words and Sounds dropped the first time, or like, I Just Want to Sing dropped the first time?
Oh man. So just let it be known, like we look at Jill as like this celestial being, and she kind of is. She just floats wherever she goes. She's so dope and warm, but she a whole hood joint from North Philly. We from 3 blocks away.
Oh wow, really?
Yeah, she from 23rd and Lehigh. I was born and raised. I was raised on 22nd in Indiana, which is literally 2 blocks up, 1 block over. Wow. So she from my hood. So it's one thing, the poetry was one thing, but it was also to see like this person who comes from my neighborhood. Like literally, I probably, I was friends with somebody on her block. I didn't know her growing up. She's a little bit older than me. But like just to have that was such a beautiful thing. Like, wait a minute, she hood, but she's not like, it ain't like she rapping. She doing her thing as like this North Philly girl. So when Who Is Jill Scott took off, like I was blasting that everywhere. Cause again, it was poetry. It was like, it's a little bit of go-go in that joint. It was so dope. And again, it was so Philly. Yeah. It was so Philly. And people from Philly, we don't care who you like, whether it's like rock, rap. If you represent Philly, like we go hard for you. Like it's such a prideful city. So when I Just Want to Sing came out was a whole different level, because I'm like, he from West Philly, but like this joint is different. When again, Floetry, they're from London. But they were living in Philly at the time, and you could just see them downtown. That's the one thing people don't understand. On a Tuesday night, it was an event called the Black Lily, and it was supposed to start at 9, but they never start before 11:30.
CP time.
But on any given night, you could just walk up there and Music Soul Child will be like trying out a new song. Badu will be in the back, fucking levitating, whatever the hell she was doing. Like Philly was just the place to be. They jamming. Jill Scott, like, doing runs. Jaguar Wright's doing runs. Questlove is on the drums. Wow. Black Thought is freestyling to somebody's, adding a verse to somebody's thing. It just was a crazy time back then. Like on any Tuesday night, you pay your $5 to get in, and it was like
$5.
$5, my guy. $5. But also remember, this was like everybody was like on the brink.
Yeah.
Jasmine Sullivan was like 14, 15 back then and was crushing it. Wow. Kindred, the Family Soul was big. Yeah, like they were like a big thing back then. Like it was, so just again walking on those hills, I'm like, yo, number one, not only is this great art, but you're showing me there's a path to do what I want to do and make money off of. Money. That was beautiful.
Well, I think the Jill Scott thing is important. And sorry, I said Words and Sounds. That was Who Is Jill Scott. That's what I meant. Sorry, yeah. But with her, I think it's important because just the poetry. I knew some poets back in my time too, like some close friends at the time, and they used to reference that album all the time. That was like a paradise for them. You know what I mean? And I'm like, yo, for me, I just love the music, but I respected the poetry side. I used to go to some shows, mostly to chase women, but I used to love, because there used to be a lot of women at least it was in Toronto. Oh my God, it was just dumb. But like that album to me was like, wow, that was like those both worlds collided.
Yeah. And a lot of people didn't even peep game. Like if you listen to Love Rain, it was a poem. Like she sang on it, but it was a poem. And a lot of times we're hearing spoken word and don't realize it. Like even on like Aquemini, if you listen to Sporty Odidopalicious, They're doing poetry.
Yeah.
That's poetry at the end of Liberation. There's a poem on the end of Liberation. On College Dropout, Jay Ivy does a poem on Never Let Me Down.
Yeah.
Like there's been poetry spliced in there. Carl Thomas album had Malik Youssef on there doing a poem. It's Bilal had poems on his joint. Like shout out to Bilal. Like we mentioned a lot of Philly artists, but I think Bilal might be the most underrated. Just his voice is just crazy. Poetry has always been a part of this. But sometimes we get, like you said, the beat is so dope and the flow is so crazy that we don't realize we're listening to spoken word and not rap, not R&B. This is spoken word.
I forgot Bilal's from Philly. One of the most underrated artists. Man.
Yes,
that voice is it's
unreal.
It's dumb.
Unreal.
It's dumb. Like just off the top. But yeah, like I said, it's like that album to me was like it kind of really represented that those both worlds could really collide and people could really appreciate it for what it is. And I know back in those times too, at least for me, I discovered like just at least going to shows, poetry was big. I didn't realize how big it was even in Toronto until like going to some of these shows, and I'm like, damn, like there's hundreds of people at this shit. Like, yo, this is huge.
Huge.
You know?
But it's always been like a kind of underground thing. And maybe that's where it was cool. It kind of peaked out with Def Poetry Jam. It peaked out again with Brave New Voices.
Right.
It peaked out again with Verses and Flow. And maybe that's what it needs to do, go bubble a little bit underground, become really, just let everybody learn, let everybody grow, let everybody like find a way and then get a little bit commercial, go back. Like, so maybe that's the best way for it to be right now.
Okay.
I don't have a problem with that as long as, it's so many dope young artists right now. So I'm looking forward to like what the next iteration of this is going to be.
It's going to be. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I got some random questions. So like, out of all these stories, they're all like your babies, when you create something. Which of these are among your favorite stories? Unless you do have a favorite, which one of these like stories that you put out are your favorite?
My favorite story is the very first story I've ever told. And I told this story on AOL in the AOL chat room the night it happened.
Wow.
It was the hotel story. Like we
that skit.
Yeah. It was like it was such a good lesson. We went like our favorite hangout spot was the Stinger. And for whatever reason that night, like it was no men there. It was like 12 to 1, 20 to 1 women to men. It was just the greatest night ever.
That sounds awesome.
Oh my God, it was great. Like what, and we get a phone call, like Bruce gets a phone call, like, hey, listen, it's a lingerie party down at the hotel and ain't no men there. And we just like, do we leave the women here? We out. Lingerie, young 22, 23-year-old virile, we out. We get down there, it was like some older women that we wasn't ready for their level of perversion, and they just had their way with us and chased, again, a 12 or so thugs, one thug adjacent person running from these older women whose sex drive was way bigger than ours, chasing us down hotel lobbies into the parking lot, trying to rip our clothes off. And again, like this, we get back to the block and these thugs is like, yo, don't nobody ever tell nobody that this shit happened. So I went home and typed it out on AOL that night. I had everybody cracking up, but I never told like the story verbally to anybody. Mm-hmm. And that was like 2001 maybe. So it took 20 years later, I ended up telling the story online. And that's my favorite one to tell, just the story about how greedy we were. We swore we was these players and we ran into these women who were just way more player and way more horny than us. And they tried to ravage us. And it was a good lesson learned. Bird in the hand. Stick to where you was at.
No doubt. And they treated you guys like you were the Jackson 5.
Yeah, they really did. But they treated it was a good lesson also because they looked at us how we were looking at women. So we got a taste of our own medicine of just like they just wanted to have their way with us and they was just trying to do anything to get it. And it was interesting, like the tables had finally turned on this band of young fuckboys, and we learned our lesson that night. I love telling people that story.
Yeah, I mean, and which ones do you say you get the biggest feedback from? The best and biggest feedback? Maybe not the biggest, but like the best feedback from.
The best feedback I've gotten is this episode I told about how I lost my virginity. And it was interesting because again, it was some issues around consent and not like, nothing crazy, but I was like almost threatened into like, hey, listen, we're gonna have sex. So I'm gonna tell everybody that you scared to have sex and it's gonna ruin your reputation. So I did it. And, so I told the story. It comes out a little funny because it's the anxiety of that. But a lot of women hit me up behind the scenes and said that they sat down with their sons to watch that. so
Really?
that they can show like, hey, listen, your body is your
It's yours.
consent means something for you too. And I don't think a lot of young men were taught that. We were taught like, hey, listen, get as many bodies as you can, fuck as much as you want. And if you're not on that time, you're not a man, specifically back during that era. So a lot of women sat down, like hit me up behind the scenes, like, yo, I really sat down with my kids and watched this particular episode. I don't let them watch this stuff. We watched this one together. So that was really good fit. And I didn't set out to be that way, but it was really cool that was the feedback. And we're talking dozens of women hit me up and said that.
No, I didn't even think about it from that perspective. But yeah, I mean that's a real thing, right? You get pressured as guys to do, certain things. I mean, and we're from that era, so like, I guess we kind of used to, but looking back on it, you're like, yeah, you put yourself in some compromised situations sometimes just because of pressure, right?
Absolutely. And again, like that was like it was two mortal sexual sins specific if you was a man, but specifically if you was a black man back then. The one was being a 2-minute brother. If somebody found out that you checked out the game early, your reputation was ruined. Yeah. That was it. You get that reputation, that's over. And the other one was if you was afraid to have sex. So you couldn't. And again, I was like this athlete, the captain of like this starter on the basketball team, this popular guy who was still a virgin his senior year in high school. So she didn't know that. So I had to pretend like, I get it in, girl, I'll blow your back out. Lion ain't never blown out a goddamn thing. But so just telling that story, like she said, that was really cool to have women hit me up specific. And then guys also hit me up, was like, yeah, I was afraid my first time. So if I don't have a message in what I'm saying, I don't feel comfortable having an episode just fuckboy tales for the sake of it. Like, nah, I don't want that. I want to be able to have conversation afterwards. So the conversations that I have in my DMs or my email afterward, that's the stuff that matters to me the most. And that's the one that sticks out the most. That episode sticks out the most.
I think mine is the I watched it recently again, just prepping for this, and I was laughing. It was one of your stalkers that was, I think it was the one that was, it was almost like a magnet stalker. I think she came from somebody, she was somebody else's stalker. She came and started following you, and then started singing in the restaurant like that. Yo, that one happened. Rolling.
I can't believe I think about that a lot. I forget. I knew her name. I'm not gonna say her name.
Yeah.
I forget what I called her in the episode, and I don't want to mess up. But yeah, she was she had some mental health issues. She was stalking a friend of mine, another poet, and he kind of like passed her off onto me. Like on purpose, he passed her off to me, like little bum. I cuss him out about this all the time. But yeah, I was with my girlfriend in IHOP, and she came in the restaurant with two older gentlemen and literally was singing Britney Spears to me from the other side of of IHOP. And I had to like hold this 5'11" North Philly girl back from whipping her ass in the middle of IHOP, and so we don't get arrested. And I can't, like, that really happened. That's the crazy part. That actually happened. And I still see her around Philly every once in a while. And again, she has like, I'm pretty sure she's paranoid schizophrenic, because sometimes she recognizes me and sometimes she doesn't even, like, she's another person. So I would say she's harmless, I think, but that definitely happened. She was like obsessed with me for a while. That way. Yeah, let's keep it that way.
But what's scary though, is funny, is as black men, as big men, we joke around about, women stalkers and stuff, but I've had a situation where I've had that. I've had some friends that's had that. It's a little scary.
It is scary.
It's not when you can get a guy scared, especially a big guy scared. It's no games right over that, man. Like you get a little nervous when you see that stuff happening, where you're like, yo, she's here again.
Yeah.
Oh shit! Like, yo, she's here. Oh my god! And then it's
some of it is you don't even know how to defend yourself, because if it's a dude, it might have to come to blows. Again, I'm not a tough guy, but I know how to defend myself against another dude. When I'm 6'7", 300 pounds. It's 5'2", 118. What I'm supposed to? She swing on me, or she start acting. What I'm gonna do? I can't hit her back. Like that's not gonna fly in court. That's not gonna fly in public opinion. It's like, yo, this can ruin your actions can ruin my life, and I have to just sit here and accept it. So I'm gonna sit here and look like, if this is somebody recording, I'm gonna sit here looking like a sucker. Or I defend myself and something. So it's very scary, because you don't know how to react in those situations. It's just, I don't think a lot of men talk about that.
No, it's a real thing. Like I'd well, I'll tell you quick 2 stories, but I had one of my friends who recently passed away. He had a stalker that was like, it was so bad that one time we was at a club and getting it in, we having a good time, and he saw her friend at the club. And he was like, yo, we leaving right
Now.
He was like, yo, I don't want
feel
this
him.
girl to show up. She called it, she calls blase blah, and now she's showing up here at this club. He's like, we leaving
We
right
out.
now.
I feel him.
And we were trying to talk him out of it, and he was already out the door. We had to leave because he had the car keys.
Nothing to discuss. We out.
Yeah, so we're just like, all right, man, let's go. But I was like, damn, like it has you shook like that. And then I had a situation where, and nothing even happened with the girl, but every time I went out somewhere, she would see me, and it was innocent, but she would see me in the clubs, and all of a sudden, every time I tried to talk to somebody, all of a sudden, it was like one of those cartoons where you turn around, it's like, wow, she's closer than before. You turn back around, you're like, whoa, what the hell? She's right behind me. And then it got to the level where it got so bad. At one point, I went on a date with this girl, and at the end of the movie, she her friends were there at this movie theater. So I'm like, Jesus Christ, went to a movie premiere, and we're talking, and all of a sudden, the date that I was with at the corner of my eye, I see her jerk forward. So I'm like, you okay? And she's like, I think somebody pushed me. So I turn around, and this girl and her friends, I just see the back of their heads, and they're breaking the corner. I'm like, yo, did she shoulder my date?
That's
like,
crazy.
Are you kidding me? So it got to that level where I was like,
that's
okay,
scary.
Like, this is like,
that's got physical.
Yeah, like she shouldered my date. And I'm like, and I never even did anything to this girl. Imagine if I did.
Yeah.
I'm like, how worse would it get?
But the lightning bug chick, like I refused to date for like a month, like almost like a little over a year, because I was like so afraid to bring another woman into that chaos of being, at the time she was stalking me. Like it messes with your psyche. Like, you didn't want to, the last thing you thought that day was like, this woman gonna put hands or try to put hands on my date. Like, imagine if she was a little bit less, a little bit more unhinged and wanted to fight this chick. Like that lay on your mind. Like, I don't even want to put somebody in this situation. Let me try to get her right first. So let me try to, ride out this storm first. So I feel you on that.
And it's almost like you had to detox.
Yeah, for sure. 100%.
Talk about the Mya Story, man.
This really happened. Like, I still have the badge from that night. So it's a big event in Philly called Powerhouse. It's like the biggest concert of the year. And my dad's friend, he does like the sound. So he would get me into like, he sets up all the speakers and runs the soundboard and everything. So he would just get me into the shows for free, and I would work. He would pay me to just like check up on the speakers and shit, on like do little errands. And Mya's on stage, like Lil Kim, Mya, Carl Thomas, this group out of Philly, Ram Squad, a bunch of other people this one night. Mystical was there, and Mya's on stage, and she does her set, and she leaves, and she's backstage, back like back on the back ramp, like not in her room, on the back ramp. She's sitting by herself, and I'm like, yo, good show, like you killed it. And she was like, thank you, and I just walked off, and she was like, no, seriously, thank you. And I was like, oh, okay, so I slide over there, start talking to her. And at the time, Wendy Williams was working in Philly on Power 99, and she crawls up out the depths of hell and sees me talking to Mya and grabs her and is like, yo, why are you talking to the help? And that shit just destroyed me, yo. I never forgot about that. She like just literally dragging Mya back up the ramp, and Mya was like, I'll see you at the after party, right? And I'm like, yeah. But at the time I couldn't go. I wasn't old enough. I think it was like 25 to get in that night, and I was only like 21. Either way, whatever it was, I wasn't old enough to get into the after party. And I never seen her again. I always say, she probably wasn't, she was just being nice. She probably doesn't remember this. But you don't say nothing. Like, I remember that happened in 2000. So I'm like, all right, I finally have my own platform. I'm gonna be petty.
Yeah, I would too.
I would be petty. I got a platform. I'm gonna be petty. It's like she really said that. Like, that shit devastated me. And she said it, and she was loud, so a bunch of other people heard it. It wasn't. So we're talking like this is packed backstage area. A bunch of other people heard it, and Carl Thomas felt so bad for me that he invited me. He was proud that I tried to crack on Mya. He was like, that took balls. But he also felt bad that that Wendy Williams said that. So he like, I hung out with him for the rest of the night because he felt so bad for me that she was that loud and drawn.
Well, at least he got some sort of a consolation prize out of it.
It was cool, and it helped my confidence. It helped my confidence. And again, I always say like Mya was like a sweetheart. Like she just was being really nice to like somebody else, her, because everybody else is older. It was just we were like the two youngest people backstage. So just somebody, somebody who gave her a compliment when nobody else talked to her.
Yeah.
She was really cool. And, I was going to shoot my shot. She probably was going to, the Kimbe Mutombo that John, but it's cool.
You never know, man. She might have popped the alley-oop. You never know.
You never know. And we will never know because Wendy ruined it.
Wendy ruined it, man.
So now every single episode it says Wendy is trash in some kind of language.
The signs and stuff. Yeah.
And the signage in the background, or it'll be a picture of Wendy Williams' face like on a trash can in the background somewhere. So every single episode is like an Easter egg to find out where I put Wendy is trash.
See, I'm West Indian. I got Caribbean roots. I would have loved to cuss. I know you couldn't because you're working for your uncle, but I know a part of you must have wanted to just rip her a new one at that point.
I wanted to, because even prior to that, she had smacked my hand. Like when I was in the backstage area, she was walking down the stairs. She had like these big platform shoes on. And my dad friend Bruce was like, yo, help her down. So I reached out to grab her hand, and she literally smacked my hand away. Wow. I was like, what the fuck? Like, again, I'm not gonna say that I'm working, I'm young. She's like she's known, she's world famous.
Yeah.
So I ain't say nothing. And then it just got even worse with the whole with the other thing. So I wanted to, the North Philly in me wanted to so bad, but it's like I'm working, she's famous, this ain't gonna look right. Like security gonna throw me out. I ain't gonna be able to see Lil Kim. A whole bunch of stuff played into my little 20-year-old mind.
One of your homies definitely would have lost the job that night.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. 100%. For sure.
Now, random question. Have you forgiven Wendy Williams? Especially when you see Mya, she still looks good.
Oh my gosh, she still looks amazing. Good. So yes, that's the thing. Like, I don't hate Wendy, and even when she was going through the stuff, like when she got sick, and then she went through the stuff with her husband.
Yeah.
Like, I gave her a special shout out in the episode during that time. Like, hey, listen, this is all fun and games, and I'm just being petty. I don't actually hate her. But what she did was still foul.
Yeah.
What she did was foul, and I know she's seen it. I know two things. I know Mya has seen the episode because one of my friends her brother is Maya's personal assistant, and so he's seen it and shown it. So I know for a fact she's seen it. And I was told by one of her co-hosts back in the day, he saw it and he sent it to her. So I know she saw it too. So she ain't reach out and say my bad or nothing like that. But it's cool. Like it really ain't no hate. It really is. And I don't have no ill will towards sis. But I'm gonna be petty, and it's good for content. And every week, look for her face on the episode. Look for her face somewhere.
I would too. It's like the Easter eggs. It's hilarious when I see.
And it's a cool little throwback to like the day ones. Like, people are gonna get that. Like the people who are around for that story, who've seen that story, they'll get it. And then there's a bunch of people like always seem like, yo, what's up with this Wendy thing? And it's like, you got to go back and watch the episode. It'll all make sense. I promise you.
Is there any potential nominees that you can see that could be, one of the fuckboy gods?
So for those, I have a list of, like, every once in a while, like in an episode, I'll need guidance, so I pray to the fuckboy gods. And right now, as it stands,
you rise to fuckboy heaven.
You raise up, and you go up there, and it's a character I created early on called Fuck Niggamus, who's like the overlord of all fuckboys. But underneath him is like Future and Drake and Nick Cannon and Jhené Aiko and Kevin Samuels made an appearance in one episode where he wasn't like a fuckboy guy, but he was like fuckboy counsel. So there's a lot. There's a lot. I think that Derek Jackson, the internet personality, was inducted to the fuckboy gods.
He always getting kicked out.
Yeah, like he's always, because he always pandering in the episodes. That's a good question. It's such a hard level to attain when Future is the standard. Like, that's hard to uphold. So I'm gonna be taking nominations going forward and for new fuckboys. Okay, I think I might have a local one for you. Oh, word. What about Tristan Thompson? Oh, Tristan. Oh, hell yeah, Tristan Thompson. Hell yeah. Absolutely. Like, he's like the lieutenant of the City Boys. Like, he is captain of the City Boys. Hell yeah. Oh, was it Robin Thicke made an episode because the fuckboy shit he did, with Paula. Who else made it? Donnell Jones made an episode because of Where I Want to Be is just a fuckboy anthem. Like, there's no way around it.
It's a classic though.
It's a classic fuckboy bop. But yeah, Tristan Thompson is first ballot Hall of Fame fuckboy, no doubt about it.
Is the Titty City couple still together?
As far as I know, the last time I checked, I know they got kids together, so if nothing else, they got that. But the last time I seen Cornell, like they were still together.
That's probably one of my favorite episodes, actually.
Yeah. That shit was crazy. Like me and my friends talk about that all the time. Like for those who haven't seen the episode, like my friend Cornell just literally, we were outside, like he was trying to talk to this girl, and she had some really big breasts, and he was like, "Watch me get her." I'm like, "You ain't gonna get her. You ain't gonna get her." He just looked at her and said, "Titty City," and she was so taken aback. All of us were like, "Yo, what the fuck did he just say?" And she's like, "Don't ever disrespect me." And he just cut off Titty City. And the more she would get angry, the louder he would get, Titty City, until she started laughing. And once he got her laughing, then he started saying, that was it. They walked off together talking. I can't stand you. You're so goddamn ignorant. And he had her. And that was it. Then they were together. All off 2 words. Like, I couldn't believe that happened.
That is and multiple kids later. That is funny.
Multiple kids later. And I mean, that's not a story you want to tell at Christmas with your kids, though.
No.
You got to lie and tell your kids something different.
You got to Disney that up.
Yeah, you
got to Disney that up.
You can't do that.
Now, I've never been to Philly, so I can't speak to the club scene over there. You know, the only thing I know about is the Stinger, just from watching the series. But you know, I've been to DC. I know you've been to DC as well. I know what the club scene was like in Chocolate City. At least I know some of it, at least in that era.
Yeah.
And I know you guys aren't that far from the DMV. Did you guys have anything over there that was equivalent to Club Dream or Love that was huge back in the days back in the early and mid 2000s?
We had a couple joints. Gotham was really big. Vegas was really big. We had a joint called Babylon. This episode I'm working on now is about this club Babylon. So again, Philly is a little bit different. Philly a little bit more gritty.
Okay.
DC is really cool because you'll get the grittiness of DC, but it's still like a federal city, so you'll get like some classy, a little bit of. So it wasn't like that, but like that would have been our equivalent. Like, but we used to go, like Philly people would go down to Dream for the night. They'd just go down, book a room just to kind of go down there.
I know you must have been to Dream at least one time in your life.
You already know. The name apropos.
Listen, man, it's the first time in my life where I felt like I wanted to actually sleep over in a club. I never felt like that before in my life. I wanted to sleep in the club and just wake up the next day and just waited to come back to Saturday night. Like that was unbelievable. 8 to, like, I felt like 4 to 1, 5 to 1. Like it was paradise.
It really was, because you have the grittiness of DC. You have the people, the transplants, the young transplants who are there to work in the federal. Then you got Howard. You got U of M right outside. Like
George Mason.
Crazy. Oh my God, it used to be so crazy down that joint, yo. So yeah, like we would just we would travel down. And again, the DC girls was just so much different from Philly girls too. So it was like a little break for us.
Okay, yeah. I mean, very, very approachable. Sometimes a little too approachable.
Yeah.
A little aggressive on both sides, because there's some crazy stories. You've ever been to Chocolate City? I don't know if Philly's like that, but going to Chocolate City, I know that some of the stories sometimes you're like, wow, like it's over aggressive sometimes too.
I got some DCs. I definitely I got some DC stories I need to put on the list.
Yeah.
But the first time a woman ever bought me a drink was in DC. She just sent me a drink from across the room, and I was like, the fuck? Like, what's that? What's your angle, lady? And she macked the hell out of me from across the room, just bought me a, just sent the bartender over. I'm like, yo, this ain't never happened in Philly, and it never happened afterwards either.
Yeah.
It was different. It was different.
Yeah. First time I got bagged was I'd like to say was in DC. And I was looking around like, am I a candid camera? Is this a joke?
Yeah, that's how you feel.
Yeah. Especially when they look good too. You're just like,
that's the part.
Like, you're like, nah, this is a lie. This can't be real.
You look like what's the catch?
What's
the punchline? This is different. It was way different. So shout out to DC. Shout out to the whole DMV.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the last things I'll ask you before you go is for you, like how far do you want to take this series? Like where do you see this series? I don't want to put years and times on it, but like, where do you see this series going forward?
I'm actively pitching it right now. I think I have to be patient. And I have to remember that as I'm pitching it and like trying to play the Hollywood game. For anybody who's doing that right now, who is trying to attempt to do it, is thinking about hopping into it, be ready for rejection, and you got to have tough skin.
Yeah,
because it's the rejections are no joke, and they're constant, and they're over. Like, and it's like you got to remember that it's not you. It doesn't mean that your product isn't good. It means it might be the timing. It might be you don't have the right team. It might be the package. It could be a bunch of things. So for me, I'm being patient with that. And I'm trying, like I'm actively pitching it, and I can see I have it developed in a different way, but very similar.
yeah.
To put this on a streaming service, to put this on a network, to put this on, whoever wants to do right by it. So like I'm actively trying to find the right fit for it. And in the meantime, like this is like an announcement. I have another series that I'm in development with right now that I've completely it's under the Trashterpiece. It's in the Trashterpiece cinematic universe per se. It's under that umbrella, but it's completely, it's a completely different animated series that I'm going to be working on and releasing, and it's not shorts. It's 22 to 30-minute episodes.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm actively working on that, and at the same time, I'm looking forward to being able to voice and write on other people's projects as well. So I've been in conversations with some folks who have shows actively right now on Hulu, Showtime,
Okay.
HBO, Paramount, and Netflix is trying to hopefully work on one of their seasons as well. Because I love voiceover, and I love being able to write. Like I love screenwriting. So while I'm waiting for the right fit for Trashterpiece, that's the trajectory I'm going in. Working on a side project, a full length thing, so the Hollywood can see like I'm not just this guy that makes shorts about his life. I can create a whole different world. And I want to be able to write on other people's stuff as well and bring other people's projects to life.
And that's the thing too, right? Like, especially that game, it's all it takes is one yes.
That's it. That's all I need.
Yeah, all it takes is one yes. So you can get 1,000 no's, but that one yes destroys, just levitate, just levels the playing field.
And I look at people like Quinta, like Issa Rae, like Michaela Cole, who that's all they needed. Like I look like again, 3 beautiful Black women, like showing the way right now. Like they're my inspirations. Like Issa had Awkward Black Girl and was trying to pitch that, and eventually just trying to get that to the right situation and not taking no dummy deals, and that ended up turning into Insecure, and she's doing a bunch of other things. Like Quinta started out with the shorts on the internet, her little tiny funny self, and that turned into her true story with Abbott. Michaela Cole telling her story with I May Destroy You, and not taking any short. Like like Netflix wouldn't even give her a percentage of her show, and she's staying pat. And then HBO, BBC ended up, giving her a piece and paying her more by just her standing her ground with her baby. So like that's been my inspiration. Like you said, I only need one yes.
Yeah, you just need that one. And that's the funny thing too. And we're in the era now of like being educated more about like ownership, owning your content, and like that's really important in streaming and everything that's happening from podcasts to shows and what you're doing. And it's really important. So standing your ground is like it takes a lot of fortitude, a lot of patience. It's and sometimes you want to give in and take that offer, but sometimes you look back and those are the deals you hear 20 years from now was like how this person got effed over because they signed the wrong deal and trying to maybe not have that patience. And it's crazy to see. It's funny that last episode of Insecure when she did the wrap up, like the episode where she did the wrap up and the behind the scenes stuff, that was inspirational. That was really inspirational when it comes to like what you're doing in terms of just, and then the way she kind of paid it forward for everybody else. Like that's the thing you love to see, and to think that just came from an internet short series, like kind of what you're doing, like you just don't know where these things go.
It's been again like 100%. They're my inspirations. Like I look at them. I look at creators who took a while to, even like Squid Games took 7 years. The Sopranos took 10. They sat on The Sopranos they denied The Sopranos for 10 years, and it's one of the most iconic shows ever. So I look at that and I'm like, all right, I ain't trying to wait 10 years. Like that would suck. But in the meantime, it's like I'm gonna continue to create. Like I got one job. to create. I don't know. I can't control with the algorithm. I can't control whatever the industry mandates are at the moment. Like right now, existing IP is really big. That's why, we have Wednesday and Velma and all these great kind of spinoffs and reimagination. I can't make Trashterpiece into existing IP.
Yeah.
The Rick and Morty thing is really big. I can't make Trashterpiece in space.
Yeah.
That's not what.
Right. Right.
But I can create something a little bit different. And this new series that I'm working on is kind of like that, and it's pushing me in ways, and I'm trying to figure that out because I'm like, yo, this shit took me 3 weeks to make a 29-minute episode. So I'm trying to figure that out. But it's been a beautiful process, and I'm grateful to be going through the process. Like I always say, like, I'm on Hollywood's porch. They ain't let me in yet, but I'm on the porch. I can hear the music. I'm seeing people going in and out. People dapping me up on their, hey, what's up, Biz? Hey, what's up? Can I come in? Nah, not yet. I'm on the porch. I'm on the porch sitting. I got a little drink in my hand. They ain't let me in yet, but they gonna let me in eventually.
Mm-hmm. It's kind of like the Stinger. You gonna get in. You gonna get in.
I'm gonna get in. Like I'm planning to let out right now. It's cool, I'm happy with that. Like I'm grateful for the position that I'm in, because a lot of people don't even make it this far. I'm not content. But I got a lot of people like fighting for me behind the scenes, and I got a really cool team. And I'm on the porch. I'm almost in.
And what's amazing too is this last thing is like, when we talk about like goals and dreams and different things, it's like, everybody has this thing about like people are so afraid to go after what they really want to do. Yeah. And sometimes it's like you realize when you get to where you are, where you're on the porch looking in and seeing everybody eating chicken and stuff, and you're about to get that piece, you want it in the corner. But when you get to that point, it's like you realize, you turn around, there really isn't that much people, which like, and I mean, like in terms of doing their thing, in terms of wanting to follow their dreams and stuff, or try to go to those extra levels and have that courage to take that 42 to go the next ways, you realize there's not a lot of people there.
It's not.
So it's like you're thinking you're amongst like a million people that you're trying to challenge, and it's like you realize there's not that much people that you're battling with.
Yeah.
So I think that's the part of it too.
And a lot of it, and for me, I'm like, I know that right now I'm in my own lane.
Yeah.
Like there's nobody really doing what I'm doing.
Right.
Like there's animation, but nobody's kind of telling it. Like I don't know anybody else who's doing like, some era pieces with hip hop involved in the storytelling, how I do it with animation. I don't know anybody that's doing that right now. Mm-hmm. So I'm in my own lane. So I'm like, I got to remember that too. Like I'm forging something new.
Right.
It's like an amalgamation of like the Boondocks and How I Met Your Mother and the Goldbergs and all these things kind of like meshed into one that I'm in my own lane and I'm forging my own way. So that's going to take a little bit more time.
Yeah. And I mean, as long as you're okay with that, then the success is going to come.
It's going to come. It's cool. And I think a lot of times in general, people, we're so busy. We're so focused on where we want to go that we don't see how far we've come.
Yeah, that's true.
I didn't start out with this like, hey, I'm gonna try to pitch that. I got this idea for Hollywood. Like, nah, I was just telling funny stories on the internet. I was just that was it. Next thing I know is Tiffany Haddish and Anthony Anderson are all following me and forwarding my stuff, and Common is forwarding my stuff, and it's like, oh shit, like I'm onto something here. So and a film festival later, American Black Film Festival, Comedy Festival, Black Star Film Festival. I never thought I was gonna be screening and film festival. I didn't even consider that.
Yeah.
Now I have I have one of the biggest management companies in LA that's backing me. I never thought that was going to happen. I didn't set out for that. So we have to take a step back and see how far we've come over the years. So like, wait a minute, like you didn't have this last year. Appreciate it. Keep your eye focused on where you're trying to go, but also like enjoy the scenery while you're here as well.
That's true. Always look back and appreciate what you have behind you.
100. You have to, and it humbles you. Like, hey, listen, I'm ambitious and that's cool, but like remember how far you've come, and like don't forget that you didn't have this last year. You've made progress. Progress.
That's awesome. Well, brother, I don't want to keep you too much longer, but man, listen, man, I appreciate you coming on the Ave Podcast and sharing your story. I'm a big fan of your series.
Appreciate that, bro.
So just having you to come and do this, man, is great. And some of my peoples that like a group of us follow you, I know they're gonna get a kick out of this, but for real, like thank you for doing this, man.
Happy to be here. Shout out to Toronto, shout out to Montreal, two of my favorite cities in the world. I love my peoples up north, so shout out to y'all.
Oh, and before I go, have you come for Carabana yet?
I was at Carabana I was on tour when Caravana was the first night of Caravana, and it was so lit. And the one thing that made me laugh was nobody believed I was from Philly. They were like, "You're from Toronto, you just lying to try to get laid." I just show women my fucking license. Like, nah, I'm actually from Philly. There was a bunch of Toronto women saying that shit to me. I was like, wait a minute, people do that?
Oh man, oh, you don't even know the history, man. You don't even know the history of guys. Because back in the day, you know, when the American guys used to come, especially when you guys had the whips, especially the bling era with the Tahoes and the Yukons and
the 24s and shit.
The 24s and shit.
Yeah.
That blow out our Honda Civics, man. So oh man, so guys will start coming in and they all of a sudden it's like, why you sound like you from Brooklyn? What's going on here? You know what I mean? Try to pick up. So yeah, so you got the backlash to that.
I got the backlash of that. So yeah, I've been to Caravana. I've been to Montreal Jazz Fest. Like Montreal's like if I could, I would move to Montreal tomorrow if I could. Like it's my favorite place to be, and I get flack all the time from my Toronto people. But I absolutely adore Montreal.
Yeah.
And shout out to all my Canadian fam, especially all the Black Canadians. Like y'all, some of the coolest people I've ever fucking met in my life.
Appreciate that. If you ever come back for Caravana, like yo, let's connect for sure.
For sure,
man,
100%. Got you.